Hello, this is Andrew Gibney from French Football Weekly. Tonight I'm here with Rich Allen. We're going to discuss the appointment of Philippe Montanier as the new coach at Nottingham Forest. And it came as, I suppose, a little bit of a surprise, probably more to Forest fans. It was sort of linked in the French press, Rich. But it is an interesting appointment. It's a sort of left-wing outside of the box appointment. What was your initial views on Montanier moving to Nottingham?
He needed a job, put it that way. he'd been out of a job since the start of the year after leaving Rennes. He's done a little bit of French TV work, but it's become a little bit of a running joke that every job he's gone for, and he's been heavily linked with, and to the point of the speculation coming out of he's about to sign, they then go and announce somebody else. So I'm pleased to see him back. He didn't deserve to be out of work because, as I'm sure we'll touch on in the coming moments, he's not a bad manager. He just was in a tricky situation, shall we say, at Rennes.
Yeah, let's sum up briefly how and where he came from. He sort of came to the forefront in France when he took charge of Valenciennes, taking over from Antoine Comboire, who did a great job at that club. Spent 2 seasons there, finished 10th and 12th, which you look at where Valenciennes are now, is at the bottom half of League Two, is really, really respectable. Played mostly 4-5-1 from what I can remember, with the legendary Gregory Puyol up front. He scored 17 goals in Montanier's last season there. And I think when I read out some of these names, we'll probably describe him best, which is probably functional. Gail Danich, Carlos Sanchez, Milan Bisevac, David De Coutu, all veteran League One players now. But I think it was those 2 mid-table finishes which attracted Real Sociedad. Went to Spain, you have the emergence of France's new hero, Antoine Griezmann, and his reputation massively shot up into the Champions League. And then I think everyone, and I suppose the Rennes fans, probably the most surprised when he turned up in Brittany to be your new boss.
Yeah, it was a bit, he struggled, I think, to start with at Real Sociedad, as he always perhaps going to do, and, a new league, new country. He was going to need a little bit of time to settle in. But, yeah, he then got that 4th place finish with Sociedad and then decided, I'm going to leave. To be fair, he probably couldn't have done any more.
Yeah,
probably peaked, to be perfectly honest.
But most people would be seeing him. You finished 4th in Spain with Real Sociedad. Where do you go? Do you go to
exactly
above that? Do you go to Germany? No,
you'd have thought that was a stepping stone to something bigger. So when his name, I recall when his name was sort of first linked, you thought, this is all just a load of nonsense. He's too good for us. He's, somebody's just having a bit of a joke. He's a French manager. We're looking for a man. It just seemed, like this. No one's going to take that rumor seriously.
2 + 2 = 5, and
exactly.
Yeah, and I suppose the first season was, a kind of success. Rennes had finished 13th. They then finished 12th under Montanier. The defence got a lot better, conceded 14 less goals. Let's start with his strengths. Let's start on the happy note. What strengths is he going to bring to Forest?
There's a few areas, I think. I've been on Twitter and probably been worrying a lot of Forest fans with slightly more negative things. But if we look at the positive things, well, perhaps ignore how things went with Rennes for one moment. His past record shows that he can be successful. He got Boulogne promoted. Was named manager of the year back then with them. I think it was about 2009. He performed really, really well with Valenciennes. Mid-table finishes for a club of that stature. Fantastic. As we just touched on with Sociedad, finishing 4th, Champions League, great. And then we hit Rennes. So we'll come on to that bit first. But his prior to Rennes, there's been a consistent record of success. Gradually going, progressing further and further and further with the kind of clubs. We've got a, Ligue 2 side, Ligue 1 side, and then a La Liga side. So there's been progression. He's constantly learning. So, his previous and past records show he can be and has been a successful manager.
Would you say that he's sort of defensively stable? I think that's the first thing he tries to sort out, is that I think the organisation, the defensive side of it, you look at the goals conceded in Ligue 1, it's been fairly good for a team of that, and we'll get on to maybe why that wasn't so great later on. But I think that side of it is organisational side. I remember you wrote an article at the start about the players were enjoying training, sort of favouring short passes, and everyone seemed fairly happy with this sort of introduction to Montanier to the team and the way things were going in that sort of new era.
And that's the thing. That's another good point actually, is that the players respect him and take to him very well. He is a nice guy. He can get on well with the players. He's clear in what he expects from them, and that works. There's that immediate sort of rapport with the players, and that gets them immediately settled. And not only with the younger players, but also the more experienced players who may be a bit more sort of standoffish when it comes to a new manager coming in. So there is that. He does love his defensive solidity. That was a big thing almost from the get-go with Rennes. It's build from the back. And I think there was a comment by one of the players who, the start of the attack is your center of your defense, and the start of the defense is your attack.
Yeah,
there's that sort of feeling that everything really is sort of built around. Let's include the defense. The defense is such a key element of the side. There was that can work, and the formations and style of play that he played with quite a defensive formation and a real focus on that, but then hitting teams on the counter attack. Now, I'm not going to profess that I know every single player at Forest, but if they do have some pacey attackers in their side, as Rennes did when Montanier was with him, that's the kind of past experience shows that's the kind of and style of play that they could perhaps come to expect. And with the right players against the right opposition, it's a very successful tactic. We saw it a few times. There's a quite a famous win before Marseille were perhaps in the doldrums that they are now. A couple of seasons ago, we went to the Velodrome and we defended absolutely heroically all game. One swift breaking counter attack. I think it was Abdoulaye Doucouré, now Watford / Granada, finished the goal. We won 1-0. That in terms of his positive tactics is the perfect example. It's going to be impossible probably to track down the game, but if Forest fans want to know how in a positive way his tactics will be employed, that's your example. It's defending, really organised defending, not panicking, keeping calm, and then utilising those quick breaks, breaking down teams on the counter attack.
And put that video link on the site when we release it. And I kind of wrote down that he had 43 wins in the league as coach of Rennes. And I was going to say, safe to say it then went downhill, but maybe a little bit harsh to say it probably never really went that far uphill, to be honest.
No.
And I think what the downside of Montanier that we get is more what, and you'll know more than me what sort of part he played in the player recruitment, but it was the sheer volume of players that not only arrived, but the ones that were on the loan as well. Like 10 players in his first season. And you can say names like Paul-Georges Ntep, Kamil Grzycki, who's doing great at the Euros. Fantastic signings. But you've got Ola Toivonen, Nelson Oliveira, Silvio Romero, Emerson.
Well,
bad signings.
Nottingham Forest fans can vouch for Nelson Oliveira with him being there at the minute. So, good luck to that relationship, because it was quite fractious at times at Rennes. They didn't particularly see eye to eye all that often. I don't think Nelson Oliveira quite knew what he'd signed up for, to be perfectly honest.
And I suppose in your first season, 10 is more than acceptable. You're sort of putting in your own stamp. To me, the biggest problem was that he made 15 signings, either on like sort of loans, free transfers, money. In his second season, 15. And it's like people like Philippe Montanier, who we had such high hopes for, came from the Austrian league, scoring a bag of goals. Sandro Prijic, who was in with 50. He did sign people like Benjamin Andre, Pedro Henrique, who I suppose is a hit and miss. Mexer, the centre back.
Christian Bruls.
Bruls,
great player at Nice. That's the problem. We had the running joke, didn't we, on the site of okay, first transfer window, as you say, he's getting his own squad together. He's taken over from sort of the slightly sour notes that Antonetti departed on. What I'd do to have him back right now. But yeah, so stamping his, getting his own players, getting his own tactics, and how he wants the team to look and play. Fine. January transfer window came. We started from scratch. A whole host more players came in, and that was the case every single transfer window.
It was 10 signings in his third season, and what that boiled down to was a coach for me who didn't ever know who his best 11 was. And then I think it was after his second season, he sort of realised that they'd only scored 35 goals in 38 games, which is disastrous for a team like Rennes. You think how much talent they've had in the past, and he tried to change things. And then we were laughing before we came on here. Who scored to try and sort of mark every formation the team plays, have them down playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different formations. Some of them will be the same, 3-5-2, 3-4-1-2. That really can be the same thing. But the fact that even Opta's algorithm couldn't work out what Montanier was trying to do, I feel that the players ended up, they didn't know what he was trying to do either. And he was trying 3 at the back, 4 in midfield, 5 midfield, 1 up front, 3 up front, 2 up front, left backs at right wing and right backs at left wing. It became a mess. It really has become a mess. And rather than sticking with, I think there's no harm in sticking with the formation and trying 1 or 2 different things, try some different people. But it just became impossible to predict what he was going to do. He didn't really know what he was doing with his best 11, and I think the players then all just sort of fell apart from there. The what's the word, Jenga puzzle sort of fell apart.
No, that's the thing. The players he's a likable guy, and the players did respect him. But towards the end, you could sense some of the players that had been there through the duration, of which there weren't that many, were just starting to perhaps lose faith in him, and the new players coming in didn't necessarily take to him straight away, and it just started to lead to that breakdown in the relationship, which of course only ends up with one way. It always ends up with the manager being sacrificed. But I'm just looking, because there was a game earlier, right at the start of the season, just to perhaps emphasise the defensive element, shall we say, of his tactics. Away at Lyon, we started with a goalkeeper. We started with 5 defenders. We started with 4 defensive midfielders and 1 attacker. We had a right back playing at left wing. So on paper, you're like, what on earth is this?
Yeah, when you get the lineup
it's a horrible mess.
On LFP, they don't give you the formation; they just give you like the list of players. I think we're all like, what is he doing?
Counter that though, on that day we won 2-1, of course, which just comes up, and that right back playing at left wing scored the winning goal. But it's
ex-Leon as well, which
exactly. So it's an overemphasis, I think, on defence. So perhaps away at Lyon, you could perhaps understand why he's a bit more defensive. But when you're playing against the arguably the lesser teams, and he's still putting out 7 or 8 defenders, defensive midfielders, and perhaps not, home to the likes of, I don't know, a couple of seasons ago, home to the likes of Evian, for example, and you're not playing a formation and a system that's to go out and win the game.
Yeah,
it does start to raise your questions.
And that totally reflected the home record. The home record sort of did them in the end. There was no real plan, I think, in place. If I looked, he used Rennes in total, because I said Montanier left after a cup defeat to Bourg-en-Bresse. They used 32 different players last season, which is an incredible turnaround. And it all just went a bit sour. And
it did. And it wasn't the best way for him to leave. We lost at home to Bourg-en-Bresse, and for people listening that don't know, they were a second division side who'd only just been promoted to the second division that season. We lost 3-1 at home in the French Cup. He had to leave under a sort of security escorted him out of the ground to protect him, because there was well, numbers vary, but between 50 and 200 fans sort of demanding his resignation and sort of almost blocking his entrance. So he had to leave under a security cordon. And that, that was it. Basically, he was gone only a sort of couple of days after, with the core beast looming over him.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, really nice guy, a really likable guy, and obviously that came across at the start. I think one of my most disappointing things for him, I'm sure Rennes fans probably think the same, is I think his lack of trust in the youngsters. Rennes has traditionally had one of the best academies in France, probably only second to maybe Lyon, and all these young players are just sent on loan, and he's bringing in players who you think, are you really any better than what you've got at the club? And then he got saved pretty much for a bit with Ousmane Dembele, who's now gone to Borussia Dortmund. He made Rennes watchable again, just his raw ability to make things happen. I don't think it was what Montanier was doing with him. I think it was just more Dembele himself, because it was now well reported it was Mikel Silvestre who spoke to Dembele and sort of talked him into staying, basically because Montanier hadn't used him when Dembele thought he should have been used. So there's a worry there if you're Forest and you're sort of trying to bring through youth, that he does seem to favour signings over using a club which has a lot of really talented young players.
Well, it started really well. When he first joined, he did start to play a few of the youngsters. You know, he had Adrien Hunou, you had Axel Ngando, you had those kind of young players who've just come through the academy and they were just on the verge of sort of signing their first professional contracts, and they were shipped out on loan. Fine, I don't mind when they're that young, ship them out on loan. But, you know, it was clear that they were talented players. You know, and then they were never, ever then given the opportunity to come back. They'd come back in the end of the season and sent back on loan again. And it just happened too many times. There was too many players that left. Too many good young players that left. And there was just too many sort of distinctly average sort of, you know, late 20s, early 30s that were brought in for, you know, either on a free or sort of 100 grand here or there. And it's like, you know, if you're going to bring those kind of players in, there's no sort of future, there's no plan in place for how you're going to take that club forward. And it's one of the key words I think I've written down when sort of thinking about Montanier and how to describe stubborn. It's probably the word that really does spring to mind.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants to do, and he will stick to it.
Yeah.
There's very little flexibility, very little sort of adaptation during a game as well. You know, he's not this sort of tinkering manager. If it's not working, I'll make a tactical change formation in the game, or you know, make those sort of game-changing substitutions. Yeah, that's the thing. It's that lack of settled 11.
I think he's great when things are going in his favour. I think it's when things turn that he's not quite sure how to turn it around, how to fix it, and just tries too many different things rather than trying one thing and giving it a few games. Not, I'll try something else. And I think the hope is for us. I think I saw someone mention to me on Twitter that maybe he won't have as full reign over transfers as he had at Rennes, and maybe won't bring in 35 players over 3 seasons. And I suppose if they've not got the money to spend that, I suppose. But yeah, it's just too many. Rich, I think we kind of hope that Forest, if it picks a formation, it can maybe 4-2-3-1 that suits the Championship better, and plays that sort of defensively solid formation, but tries to break down the wings, which would definitely work in England if he gets the right players in place. Give us a positive summarisation of Montanier, just to end on a positive note for Forest fans.
Okay, well, defensive formation can work. We've seen evidence of that. So if he's got the right players that fit in that system, or he can bring in the players, but not too many, if he can bring in the players that would fit that system, then that will work, and that will work very, very well. I don't think you need to go out guns blazing necessarily every single game, especially in the Championship. There is a time and a place for sitting back, defending, hitting on the counter attack. So he's very, very good at that kind of play. So I think if he can, in himself, and perhaps his experience at Rennes will have taught him a lesson as well, to be that little bit more flexible. So, when it doesn't call for that, he can employ a slightly more attacking formation. So in terms of that formation and what he knows, and he does know well. He just needs to be willing to sort of acknowledge that isn't working sometimes.
Yeah, you hope for Forrest that he learns the lessons of what went wrong at Rennes, and he can adapt to that. And he has adapted everywhere he's went. So hopefully it's a positive move, and that we wish him all the best for the season to come and to Nottingham Forest. We hope to do more of this sort of thing during the season and during the summer. Rich, thanks for being on. Couldn't ask anyone better to talk about Montanier.
No problem. Thank you.
And thanks to Forest fans listening. And for me and FAW, it's goodbye for now.